Hello, everyone. Welcome to Jump Up Supercast, the only podcast on the internet where all of the hosts will be gone next week because of cocaine charges. I'm Will, and joining me, Brandon.
I bet I sold more than all you guys.
Ills.
I do cocaine.
Saf.
Cocaine's one hell of a drug.
And Moozamil.
I was a consumer, not a, whatever the word is for seller. I can't think of
Dealer?
Dealer? Moozamil is a man from the streets. He's lived that type of life, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you can tell, you know?
So much. His rap album's coming soon.
It's true. Please check out his mixtape. So boys, how are we doing with our last week as free men?
I guess pretty good.
Wait, what?
We're going to jail.
You're going to jail for
I
that.
feel pretty bad that, like, every instance of me is being removed in Japan. That's kind of...
All these episodes of this podcast. You better download them
no
now.
longer available in Japan. Isn't that, like, you know?
Man,
Just
that's
when
our,
we're about
and we
to
were-
break 50 followers. God
that's
damn.
our
And we
main
were
market.
We were just working on a Japanese sub, too.
Yeah,
You know?
true.
Man.
I think
it's a
that's our
shame.
biggest fan base too. Damn.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Well,
I feel like we deserved it.
you know,
You're
that's
right.
also
Drugs are
fair.
serious.
But, you know, we're not the only ones to be suffering from this fate, in fact. So we're just gonna get into the news. You may recall that we announced, we did not announce this game.
We had the world premiere at the Jump Up Supercast.
No, upon the announcement of the game Project Judge Eyes, which we then got the name Judgment in the West, the new IP from the Yakuza team. That was coming out early 2019 in Japan and then summer 2019 in the US. Well, if you picked it up in Japan, good news, because otherwise you cannot. And this is, I think, an interesting story because it's one of those cultural things that, like, has weird implications. Because the whole thing with Yakuza for a very long time has been, we have real actors in this game. Right, like from TV, from movies. Beat Takeshi was in Yakuza 6, and Judgment had a ton of these. One of the guys, Pierre Taki, was arrested on cocaine use. So the thing about this is that in, like, America, you know, our celebrities get caught with coke, and we're like, of course, duh. Bruno Mars got arrested with this in 2011, and then he did the Super Bowl like 5 months later. It's fine. In Japan, the policy is you will be wiped off the face of the earth.
Yeesh.
So, any and all,
It's ridiculous.
it's an insane
so-
thing. Yeah,
So
go ahead.
like all instances of him are gone, including they just announced they're patching Kingdom Hearts 3 to remove his voice. He was voicing Olaf.
He did the voice of the little snowman, and they had to redo that entire musical number because
Which really that doesn't make sense because Olaf is covered in cocaine. So like I mean,
hey, all right,
What?
that's pretty good. But yeah, but the thing is,
A true
you can
sign of a good joke. That's pretty good.
But Judgment is no longer on store shelves. You can't buy it anymore in Japan until they figure out some way to remove this major character from the video game entirely. And not just
so
his
is he
voice,
the-
but his
is
face.
he the lead character?
He's
or
not
is
a lead, but he's like the third or fourth most prominent character.
So he's still like a big deal in the game.
And it's
Okay,
his
yeah.
likeness is the other thing. It's his
Oh,
face.
that's right, yeah.
Because all of them are captured based off, you know, they have motion capture. So the question is, like, will there be a situation where Yakuza and the people that work on the series, famous for having concerns about the games coming to the West, you can now potentially only buy the Western version of this game, and the people from Japan will have to import.
The concern is that like Sega will halt the American release until this thing tides over too. I think that's like a non-zero chance of happening.
Yeah.
I mean,
Because the thing is, Sega in Japan, they make all the decisions.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Like so, like if they tell Sega America, hey, don't release this game, they can't. They nothing they can do about it. You know.
Yeah.
That seems kind
So I
of...
hope that doesn't affect that.
That seems kind of like a very, very... I don't know, it would seem kind of like poorly thought out, considering that American and UK stances on drugs, or the Western stances of drugs, would be not as harsh.
Yeah.
But again, on the other hand, it might be a situation where Sega doesn't want to spoil the game, or like there's some sort of content they want to keep to a surprise or secret until it gets blown over. So I don't know.
I guess because they temporarily are pulling it from shelves. I wonder, does this mean like they're completely like, are they patching this to like change the dialogue or the voice actor like Kingdom Hearts? Or...
Yeah. Because, once again, it's this weird, mirror image where Yakuza 3 was infamous for cutting out a ton of stuff for the Western version because they thought, oh, Americans just won't get this stuff, right? And they released a content-complete version, 2 years ago, finally. But now, there might be a thing where a bunch of stuff gets cut related to this guy in the Japanese version that we don't know what'll happen with the Western version. It's a big question mark right now. And this was funny because this was... they were making as big a push as they've made with any of their games since the first Yakuza game with this one, where, they have an English dub. They have actually a really neat thing, which is, sometimes you will look at subtitles and have it, clearly what they're saying does not match the tone or what is being said in Japanese, right? Because they've changed the sentence structure. They're including 2 versions for all subs, where there's, more directly translated and more colloquial stuff to make more sense with so that's pretty interesting. Yeah, clearly they thought a lot about this Western release, which is cool. Would suck if this dude gets the whole thing messed up, right? But also stupid that all stuff gets wiped out with cocaine. If you get caught with cocaine,
that's ridiculous. And we're not here to comment on other cultures or whatever, but no. It's I
don't know why you're here. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah, it's just, but removing this guy off the face of the planet, especially like I said, I don't want to make this a commentary on the state of Japan.
No,
but
it just feels outsider looking in. This feels. I was like, what? I learned a whole lot because of this story about this stuff.
but it's on the other hand, the Rurouni Kenshin guy, right?
Yes.
He got caught with child porn, and he got a slap on the wrist.
It was a $2,000 fine, and that was.
And it's still in publication, it's still ongoing, and the guy's still. It's crazy,
I think.
I can't.
Only $2,000. Wait, sorry, $2,000 is it $2,000 or?
No, $2,000. The equivalent was how much he got fined for getting caught on that. And so it's the thing where you're just once again, you can't do equivalencies because cultures or whatever, but I feel like I live in a world where child porn is worse than that. I don't want to have this argument, but this is weird. It's a weird thing that's I don't know. It's besides just saying man, this sucks overall. There's not.
Yeah, right now my main thing is I just hope that the Western release doesn't get screwed over by this.
Those kids.
That's my only thing.
Those kids were actually 1,000 years old. Don't worry about it.
Oh gosh. No boy.
I was just gonna say it's a Yakuza game, right? It's about gang violence. No.
Well, in this game, you're a detective. That's you're a detective on. So you're on the police side of the law, I guess. But
generally, you're part of the Yakuza.
Up to this point in the series, yes, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. Cocaine.
Do the Yakuza do drugs?
No, they can't.
He's living the lifestyle. I think.
Yeah,
it's okay.
I don't know. Oh boy. Yeah, I don't know. And that you're right. There was just a divide between what they're showing in the content versus the real life stuff. But that's all up for debate. But moving on from that, though, we have a lot of little weird stories this week. But I love to talk about a game announcement, especially when it's a developer that we haven't heard from in a minute. And so the developer Heart Machine, who is known really for one game, which is Hyper Light Drifter, has another game that they've just announced that also is 3 random words stuck together: Solar Ash Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
And we've all watched the trailer for this. There's a 2-minute trailer, which is, or a minute and a half, whatever, which is nice. A lot of times with indie stuff, you'll get just a title. So it was nice that we had clear gameplay footage in the style of Hyper Light Drifter in terms of using a lot of bright neons, but not using the pixel art of Hyper Light Drifter. Instead, going with 3D models and having a third person. They pitch it as a third person action exploration game.
Yeah, it was surprising that it was in 3D because Hyper Light Drifter is purely sprite based, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
it's top down.
See them. But this is a completely different perspective. It's using 3D models, and by the way, gorgeous.
Looks great.
Looks super good. Just visually, it's a treat. So like, yeah, I mean, I'm into it. Hyper Light Drifter is like, it came out I think 3 years ago.
Yeah,
so like 3 years for this game. Sounds about right.
And I think it's also interesting because Hyper Light Drifter was one of the first Kickstarter games that like I think really blew up huge, right? I feel like it was sort of the same time frames like Shovel Knight and games like that. And so, there's always the question of these games that get big on these Kickstarter campaigns, suddenly these companies are, probably because it's easier to now able to fund these games themselves. But, keeping that momentum moving forward is always a question. And so will be interesting to see the game as it progresses and as they show more and more. But Solar Ash Kingdom.
Looking forward to it.
Look up that trailer because it's good.
Did any of you guys finish Hyper Light Drifter?
No, I was making my way through it. I didn't finish it yet.
Never even played it.
No, touched it once. But that's...
Do you have a hot take on it, Ills?
No, I haven't finished it either. I just thought somebody else did. I played it for like 10 minutes and I don't know why it keeps pushing me away.
Off it. Yeah. It's good. I mean, I made it like 80% of the way through, I think. It's very it's hard, right? Like it pitches itself as that, but I don't think that's an issue for like you've played plenty of hard games. It's just
it looks great, it controls great. It's like maybe sometimes you're just not in the mood for something,
Yeah. I'll get to it.
We had an Inside Xbox monthly show. Normally, I mean, these are those things where we talked about them. We're on the very first episodes of this podcast. Inside Xbox, where they're then bringing it back, right? And ultimately, you might notice that we haven't talked about it a ton since, besides that one Mexico City conference, because they're mostly, if you're interested in special editions of consoles, then boy, what a show it is for you. But otherwise, it's sort of always been tepid at best.
I mean, these shows are bad. Let's just be honest. Like
they're 2 hours, and they're like an hour and a half too long.
2 hours long. They don't cover much. They there's like sprinkled news here and there, but definitely no big announcements.
Usually they're like, hey, there's like this, and this is coming to Game Pass, or there's this cool new controller coming out.
I mean, it's definitely cool for like, obviously like if you have Game Pass, it's like, and they usually announce like big name stuff like, like recently.
Yeah, but I'm always
but, like,
excited
you're
for
not
that,
watching a 2-hour show. Yeah, you're not watching a 2-hour show.
You're going to read that headline after
what you
all
can see
you
on
need,
Twitter.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
The rest of the show is usually filled with fluff, and it's just like, it's all around like, but this month is different, right? Kind of.
Yes. Because there is, I mean, once again, probably too long of a show, but we got an announcement that's pretty crazy, all things considered.
Yes.
Halo is
big deal.
Finally back on PC. First, I think that's the big thing that you lead off with, right? Halo 1, Halo 2 was a big deal because it was exclusive to Vista, which gives you a time frame for when the last time they were pushing Halo on PC was.
It's been a while.
It's been a minute. And Master Chief Collection, with all of it, is coming to PC. But not only that, they're adding in Halo Reach into the overall package of Master Chief Collection, both on Xbox and on PC.
Yay.
Which now brings it to 5 games, I think it comes with now.
Yeah, 1 through 4, and then...
so the specifics of Reach, though, is that...
ODST, I think, is in there, too.
Well, ODST is available as DLC for 3, You can also get ODST. I don't know if you count that as a separate game. But they don't count it in the dashboard, at least. But, so Halo Reach, you get the multiplayer for free if you already own the game. If you want the campaign and the
firefight mode,
yeah.
Which is like the Horde mode.
Yeah, that's basically add-on, unless you have Game Pass, in which case you get that DLC for free.
Wait a minute, what? You don't get the whole game as part of it?
Nah.
Well, no, I mean, because this is extra content they're developing. This is extra DLC, so you get. So they will give you the multiplayer for free, but if you want the campaign and if you want the for existing owners of
we don't have the pricing on it, but basically you get the instead of having to just buy the extra game, you get the multiplayer and then probably I imagine $15 to $20 to get that, unless you have Game Pass where you get it for free.
So it's like paid DLC, an old game that's added to the collection?
They've updated textures and they've updated visuals on it, and it's like, they've added like
I think it's fair to ask a price for Halo Reach campaign.
That's super weird.
They added a whole new game that they didn't need to into the collection. Yeah. And it's like, hey, if you
but it's an old game. I don't know.
But they had to they had to do work on it.
It wasn't like they just
I get that, but I mean,
dropped.
Isn't that part of the appeal of reselling the collection, getting that. I mean, not having that.
I mean, 1
DLC.
through like what is? I mean, 4.5, depending on how you count ODST, even 5. Like that's already a value proposition, right? So
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying
it's weird. I mean, the messaging is weird.
Just weird,
right? When you hear Halo Reach, I think more people probably think of firefight in the campaign than the multiplayer. So I think that does present a thing. There might be some people that are going online to sort of go and play it and be like, where's the modes? But I think once again,
and I would figure that re-releasing it, you would just add more stuff to it to make it appealing again.
Yeah, and the other sort of catch with the PC release is that like it's been announced, but it's not fully out. But they're gonna roll it out, sort of. They're not gonna have all 5 games on it one day. They're gonna actually they didn't give time frames, but they basically said, "Hey, you saw what happened when we tried this last time, and we tried to do 5 games with 5 different multiplayer servers and balancing all that stuff on one day on a platform." Back in 2014, didn't go well. So we're gonna take a little bit of time in between each one and make sure that they're all going to be ready for everyone whenever they go live. Which ultimately is like the one excuse I would take, right? Which is like, yes, you acknowledge the flaw of the last thing that you did, and you're working to address it. Because Master Chief Collection, it's weird, because it sells the perception of being this weird broken game, but they've done a lot of updates, and now it
is now the definitive way to play those games.
Yes.
It is the definitive way to experience the original Halo games. And not only that, like, because they already fixed it, and they're just adding to it now. They're just making it better and better and better. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
I think that this game gets a bad rap, and maybe deservedly so for how awful the launch was and how awful it took to even get to this state. But like now, it's at the point where it's just like they're doing things that they kind of even didn't really need to. You know?
I mean, like all those games got HDR support post-launch, which was cool and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, that's interesting. Also, the most, perhaps the weirdest little twist on this, and just another piece of the puzzle, is that this is not only coming to like Xbox Game Store on PC, it's also coming to Steam. Soon, in what a weird world, Halo's gonna be on Steam, right? Like that was one of those things that's like 5 years ago, people said this isn't gonna happen, right? That's Microsoft's ace in the hole. Halo Wars was never gonna be on Steam, but like, now it is.
So I do want to talk about that point because it's very interesting. Because so Halo Wars 2 was on Steam.
Yes.
And I think that's because they kind of thought and realized, all right, well, the audience for an RTS, we probably want to be on Steam, right?
Yeah.
That said, I think this marks a shift in strategy, right?
I mean, it continues to, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was one thing to put games on PC, but like to put things on Steam where you have to give up a 30% cut. That's kind of a big deal, especially for something like Halo, which Halo's probably the one property where they could have convinced people, hey, just bite the bullet and use the Windows Store, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's their biggest franchise, right? That's the thing. Like Halo is still their biggest thing. I mean, besides Minecraft, but like, and Minecraft's not on Steam, but yeah. So I mean, that continues. And tying into that, we had an announcement today from them before their GDC conferences next week, that, hey, Xbox Live is coming to iOS and Android, and any and all games a developer chooses can use all Xbox Live features. So the party system, achievements, notifications, all that stuff is now just universally available on all mobile games.
Praise.
Brandon, as the achievement guy, do you suddenly think of all the numbers you could easily rack up on garbage mobile games?
Oh, God. So good. Man, add that shit. Every game needs it, man. I'll tell you. That's exciting. It really
doesn't.
Just knowing. And then I'm thinking to myself, I read that article, and it said, oh, well, there's already some games on phones made by Microsoft that you can get achievements. And I was like, bitch, what?
Yep.
And then I downloaded Solitaire, and I was playing it before we started this podcast.
Solitaire achievements are surprisingly hard to get. You got to play every day for like a month, dude.
Yeah, some of them are pretty hard.
You got to invest those time.
Though, so we're good.
Well, don't worry. Now we can make sure we'll be the only podcast that's covering Gears Pop.
There we go.
Because Brandon will definitely be downloading that on his phone to get some achievements.
Dude, you bet your ass I'm gonna download that game. I'm actually really excited for it. That's a mobile game, by the way. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a mobile game.
Oh,
so,
well, man,
so we'll have the exclusive on that.
I'm going to play that shit. I'm going to shoot a bootlegger, man. I can't wait.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's just, and it's worth mentioning in the interview. They said, this could be used on Switch or on PS4, but we don't have anything related to the Switch today. Was the statement, which sort of I think is notable that PS4 was not mentioned in the things that they ever have anything to announce about, because we don't expect that. But I mean, it's still interesting to look at it and say, hey, you know what, like, Switch, obviously not now, but like probably soon, right? If not at GDC, then we basically this is all but confirming they're in talks about this stuff, which further reinforces the things we've been talking about for the last month in terms of rumors. This is slightly more direct confirmation.
Yeah, right.
We are right. But you know what else is going on at GDC? We got ourselves a Google console, maybe.
Oh, goodness.
Oh my god.
Why is this happening?
Quietly, for the last year, no one's been talking about this, really. There's been this thing where Google might be developing something, might be a streaming service, might be a console, we don't know. Late last year, there was that thing where you could play Assassin's Creed Odyssey in your browser, and if you played it for an hour, you just got it for free if you used their streaming service. And then this week, Google comes out there as hey, we're going to be at GDC this year, the Game Developers Conference. We're going to be doing a keynote. Amy Hennig's going to be here. Ubisoft's going to be here. id Software is going to be here. Look out. So there's now the thought and the rumblings is that there's not just going to be a streaming service, but it's also going to be a physical product that you can buy. And there's stuff circulating about exclusives, non-exclusives. There's stuff about Sega might be bringing back some dead franchise. We don't know. But
Outrun.
Come on.
I really don't want this to happen.
I feel okay, so this is fascinating for a lot of reasons.
I don't want this to happen either, because I don't want to have to buy it.
Yeah.
Okay. I think there's some things worth talking about here, right? Is that number one? So let's address the whole I don't want to buy a Google console, right? I get it. I understand it. Theoretically,
I don't think you understand it all the way.
No, but hold on.
No.
Just theoretically, you should be able to stream any of these games onto Chrome.
That's the reporting. Is that all the games are being designed to both be able to just be played outright on the system, but can also be streamed, because Google and Microsoft have the two best infrastructures.
You don't necessarily have to buy the system to play this game.
Well, I mean,
the
original way Will was saying it was that it sounded like an either or nor. So if you say
no,
these will be
they're probably going to be doing both at the same time.
The thing is both. Yeah. It's the streaming service is definitely happening. We don't know. The console part is maybe a little, but I think it's worth noting because this, considering it's streaming, right, and considering we already know this works in Chrome because the Assassin's Creed Odyssey beta, cloud beta, was in Chrome, right? You just played Odyssey I played Odyssey on my browser, right? So you don't need extra hardware for this, right? So there has to be a reason that Google's vice president of hardware is teasing this announcement. There has to be a reason that the Google hardware page is teasing something, right? Obviously there's hardware involved here somehow, and I highly doubt it's just a stream stick, because if you can do it in Chrome, I imagine you could just do it on a Chromecast also, right? I don't know why you would need new specialized hardware for streaming. Yeah.
They're just going to market it as a console you can download the games and play them without the fear of losing connection because you're streaming.
I mean,
because I think you can have the console for people like us, right? Hardcore gamers, people who want who want the best experience possible.
The best possible experience, because with streaming, you're still gonna you can get hiccups or disconnects and all sorts of shit.
But at the same time, for the consumer who doesn't care about that, just wants to play Outrun 2. Hey, let me just boot it up on my Chromecast.
Outrun 2. What an example.
Outrun 3.
Outrun 3. I dare you. Nights into Dreams 3. It refuses to die.
What if I'm both those things? Hardcore gamer who doesn't want to buy another console.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it is crazy that someone else is entering the race. We haven't seen something to this scale since Microsoft.
But for a long time there was always a new face, and I mean, for 4 generations, right? Like Nintendo came on the scene with the NES, then Sega comes on the scene in a big way with the Genesis. And, there was prior stuff, but that's where they became a big household name.
Yeah.
Then PlayStation comes on the scene, then Xbox comes on the scene, and then we've had 2 generations where the closest we got was the Ouya, and you're like, the Ouya is not a Google console.
Hey, let's not forget the Nokia N-Gage, please.
I'm sorry, Brandon.
True, yes.
I mean, I guess you could say like a phone, but like whatever.
But yeah, but like as you're saying though, it's been 2 whole console generations, the 2 longest console generations, in fact.
Yeah.
Since we got a new player in the race.
I think everybody saw what happened to Sega, and maybe they know it's not easy competing with the big boys now. They've all established their names.
Yeah, but I mean, who is a bigger boy than Google?
That's what I was going to say. Well, the thing is, like, who are the companies?
Maybe Microsoft.
Yeah, I mean, who are the companies left? Like Microsoft, Amazon, and like Google were the 3. I mean, now
McDonald's.
They're going to do it. I mean, I guess Apple maybe could, but like, no matter what, like, the thing was on the original Xbox, Microsoft lost. It was a non-small amount of money. They were in the hole for a long time with the Xbox brand because. Yeah. They were willing to. They said, you have to be willing.
Yeah, they were willing to take a hit on the hardware. They were willing to pay for a ton of exclusives,
Mm-hmm. They knew they had to.
Put in a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it looks like Google's... we don't know about the hardware side yet, but the rumors do seem to be swirling that, at least on the software side, they're willing to pay up,
I mean, they've already mentioned a couple of names. I mean, they said Ubisoft's going to be there, which makes sense because these Odyssey stuff, like trying to get Amy Hennig, who's associated with a big series like Uncharted and this big sort of failed game like the visceral Star Wars game at EA. Like, those are people you put on stage when you want to be taken seriously, not when you're like, hey, here's Game of War. Like Amazon did a thing a couple of years ago where they're like, guys, we bought Double Helix, the people who made Killer Instinct for the Xbox One. We're going to be going into video games. And then all their games are basically iPad games, right? But like, they never messaged in the way that Google's messaging now, right? Like, I mean,
like, it's worth noting, right? Like, literally the game they introduced the whole thing with is Assassin's Creed Odyssey, right? And say what you want about Assassin's Creed, but that is a big boy console game, like.
Yeah. So I mean, we'll see where it goes from there. I guess it should be mentioned too. Jade Raymond, who helps. I mean, probably now that I say this out loud, it makes more sense. The whole Assassin's Creed thing. She was associated with managing the Assassin's Creed brand for a long time. Is the VP at Google for gaming, basically. And so they've hired her. So they're getting games people in the room. They're not just getting like Steve from the just across the hall. They're getting people that have a history with video games. But we'll have full details to talk about next week. But I think it's fascinating already, though.
Yes. Before we even see it,
because we could come in next week and say this was all nothing. But like,
yeah.
But speaking of conferences where things will get revealed, PAX East, Brandon, you're going there, right?
I sure am.
Guess who teased the reveal?
Oh, baby. I know who teased it because as soon as I saw that shit, I was posting it in the chat in Discord.
Who is it, Brandon?
Gearbox.
Gearbox has basically an image that says Borderlands 3.
I mean, pretty much.
It's in the Borderlands art style, basically. 100%.
And it says Exit 3. It's a big highway sign. It says the exit for Boston, Massachusetts, and it says Exit 3. I mean,
I wonder what that means. I can't figure it out.
Yeah.
Which is funny, because Borderlands was ever on Earth, was it?
No.
So it's where the... Oh, I guess Boston's where the PAX East is. I'm stupid.
Yeah.
You did But I did. I cracked the code. But yeah, I mean, this is a thing where, like, it's funny because we've had a lot of loot shooters, schlooters, however you want to refer to this whole genre.
I've never heard that before, but I like it.
It's a whole thing.
It's catching on.
It's catching on. We're putting it over. But Borderlands was sort of ahead of the curve, right? Like, before there was Destiny, there was Borderlands, but it's taken a long nap, right? 8 years.
Too fucking long of a nap.
I almost wonder if it even took too long for this to like hit as big as it would have.
Yeah, I've had this conversation with somebody in here before.
It was probably me. Honestly,
it was probably you. Where I think they waited too long at this point.
Yes,
I don't agree.
Well, I'm just saying there might the hype on Borderlands, I think, has died down for the people and the casuals who are into it.
Because like Borderlands 2 sold a lot.
Borderlands 2 did really well.
Do we not count the pre-sequel? What's going on?
We don't. No, we don't. The pre-sequel was a half step, and it sold like a half step.
No, like, it's still a new release.
Like,
I mean, okay, we're just playing the semantics.
It's a full
game.
But
obviously,
it's a full game. I played the shit out of the game.
I mean, if we're gonna count like God of War Ascension and Gears of War Judgment as like big releases for those franchises,
but like, no matter what, I think we're in a situation where the people that I played Borderlands 2 with are two of the three really are married and have kids. They're basically dead when it comes to playing video games, right? Because it's like this.
Ouch.
It's sad, but that's a whole deal. You're like, man, well, that the people that have the most fond memories associated with Borderlands are now in a different place in their lives, and it's always you have more of a risk of like, will they come back to it, right?
Well, listen, relationships change. We grow up.
I'm not in a different place in my life.
Sometimes.
All right, well, okay, but the point is, like, I don't know if Borderlands 3 can hit off the way that 2 did.
Still could, but
it could.
There was
I feel bad about my life.
Definite. It's fine.
Because you're fine. Gotten married or having kids.
Borderlands. That's the one measure. I measure my life in Borderlands releases.
Borderlands is ruining my life.
Well, so long as you don't measure your life in Kingdom Hearts releases, you'll be fine.
That's true.
Oh, God. Well,
but
I'm coming for you, Borderlands. I hope they have a playable demo or some shit.
So regardless, it's a big deal though. Borderlands.
If you wanna though, also return to Borderlands 2. They also hinted at a Switch version today on their Twitter. So there's.
That's the one I'm picking up.
I can confirm I will not ever go back to Borderlands 2 at this point.
Man, I just replayed Borderlands 2 last year. It's really good.
I fucking love that game. Don't get me wrong, but it feels wrong playing it alone. I'll tell you that.
Not to me.
illz here's the silence and smiles.
I'm always alone. Don't worry about it.
Dog, Borderlands alone is very boring.
I disagree.
It's still a great game, but like nothing compares.
It's designed with the multiplayer.
I feel like you can't get. I agree with that, but I feel like you can't really get the jokes when there's a lot of people around talking over it.
We all silence ourselves with hushed tones.
I don't know.
I play with like 2 or 3 max, right? Mostly just like 2, like me and a friend, like. Yeah. But I've had so many, memories and experiences from Borderlands, man, that it's just the franchise is great. Yeah. I love it. I'm very excited that it'd be coming back.
Yeah, me too. And it has more, but it's interesting because it does have like, it was sort of unique in that way when it came out, and there's more competitors now. Where there's like, Ghost Recon Wildlands came out 3 years ago, and it still has like 100,000 players every day, right? Like, and there is just
a similar. Is that like a shooting RPG?
Yeah, well, yeah. You go, you get your 4 friends, you just go and you do some levels, you get your gear, and then you keep moving, right? That type of stuff. And so it'll be interesting just to see where it lands on the whole landscape of the genre. But speaking of these weird pre-sequels or whatever, there is a Octopath Traveler pre-sequel coming to your mobile phones, which was interesting because originally it was just announced as Octopath Traveler is coming to phones, but then no, actually, they did a similar sort of thing Square Enix did with Bravely back in the day, where they had these weird little, clearly in the style of, but slightly different games on the system. This one, they said, we want to make it more close to par with the main game, basically. And so it will be, you still have 8 travelers. And this one, actually, all 8 of them are on the field, which is a pretty big change. But I mean, graphically, it looks nearly identical, and like gameplay-wise, it looks very similar. But it's different characters, a different story on the same continent. But and that's the subtitle is Octopath Traveler: Champion of the Continent. So it'll be interesting. And they also said at the end, it's not like we're not making a mainline game or another like console game. Those just take more time. And so, there's nothing but ultimately, I think, good news here, because you get a little side Octopath experience if you enjoyed the first game, and basically confirmation that we're going to get another one on the Switch. Yeah, I mean, it's nice that they definitely said hey, console games take time to make. This isn't taking away from that. This is just, hey,
in the meantime, you could play this.
I mean,
while you wait.
That ties a little bit into what we were talking about last week. How the releasement, the development cycles are getting unsustainable. So it's good that they have these little releases to boost them along.
Yeah, to keep the franchise in people's minds.
That and, to get them extra money and stuff like that.
Sure, because I imagine it's probably using the same engine. But Moose, you had some story that I've completely forgotten. But what was it?
So Monster Hunter.
Yes.
Monster Hunter. The 15th anniversary happened earlier this week, and they had a little teaser image of like, hey, at first glance it was just like, hey, this is a celebration of like all Monster Hunter, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in that image was a little teaser, because if people noticed that the letters N, E, X, and T were kind of highlighted throughout the image.
Mm. That spells next.
And it spells next.
Oh, wow.
And you're probably like, all right, another Monster Hunter game coming, no shit, right?
Spelling with Jump Up Supercast.
Yeah. But here's where it gets interesting. So the tease was specifically done by someone who did not work on Monster Hunter World. The director, I don't remember his first name, but Ichinose is his last name. And he is the director of basically all the, you could call them spin-off titles of Monster Hunter. So that includes Monster Hunter Generations, Monster Hunter Generations
Double
Ultimate,
Cross, whatever it was.
Monster Hunter 4G, which was the expansion of 4. We got the full thing in the West.
Yeah.
But in the original release, it was Monster Hunter 4 made by the main guys, and then
4G.
They made an expansion to it with this team.
Yeah.
And the breakout game in Japan, the game that made the series what it is today in Japan, Monster Hunter Portable 3rd, which was on the PSP.
Mm-hmm.
So these guys have a long history of working on the portable side of the franchise, right? And so you would think, all right, it seems to be that there will be a Monster Hunter portable game coming to the Nintendo Switch sometime soon.
Muzamil, you're a man that came to me at like 3 a.m. one day and just in all caps said, Portable Monster Hunter is dead!
Yeah.
Like 6 months ago.
Correct.
You were 100% sure on this.
I was 100% sure. Because, because here's the thing. I had just assumed that the portable team would work on, I thought they were the ones making Iceborne. I thought the portable team just kind of got folded into, hey, you're just going to make DLC for Monster Hunter World, just like how they originally, started out making an expansion to Monster Hunter 4. The fact that they're still not on Monster Hunter World is fascinating. And it's interesting because Capcom has not released a single Switch exclusive, right? Everything that they've put out on Switch so far is a port of an old game, or it's Mega Man 11, which came out at the same time as everything else.
Yeah.
Even Ace Attorney is multi-platform these days. Mm-hmm. And you would think with Monster Hunter World being such a breakout success, why are they wasting their time making a portable game? At least that's what I thought that they would think.
Yes.
Right? But no, it seems like it's still happening. It seems that they still want to make a portable game.
Well, Generations Ultimate did surprisingly well on Switch. It passed 1 million, which is...
Yeah, Generations Ultimate was a throwaway port of a 3DS game, and that did 1 million in the West alone, which tells you there's clearly 1 million hardcore Monster Hunter players on Nintendo systems, at least,
They didn't disappear.
So I imagine, and so we know for a fact Generations Ultimate was the last game that would be using those PS2 era, 3DS era
models,
right? So I imagine a brand new game on Switch, exclusive to the platform, obviously not going to do as well as World, right? But I think it has potential to do really well, and I think Capcom sees that potential, right? I think that Capcom sees that, hey, there's a market for portable Monster Hunter. Obviously, it's going to do super well in Japan, probably like 2 to 3 million copies, which is nothing to scoff at, and then...
sorry, but like World was obviously a big success, but among hardcore Monster Hunter fans, there was sort of the thing of, just by the nature of HQ development, there was fewer monsters in Monster Hunter World than the last 4 Monster Hunter games. And the longtime fans had issue with that, right? So sort of there gets to be this thing where Switch fidelity, I imagine, will be lower because of the nature of the beast. But, you're welcome, Brandon. But,
we got bingo, guys. We got bingo.
We did it. Mark it down. But because of that means that the people that are longtime fans can sort of still have this game where there can be more monsters because they don't take as much time to develop each one, and maybe it's more simple in terms of like the interactions between the monsters and the environments, but it has the same Monster Hunter gameplay that people have liked for almost 2 decades now.
And I think it's worth noting, like, for hardcore Monster Hunter fans, so I have to say, I have to preface with, I have not played a lot of these games. Like, I've played them, but like nowhere near enough to know any of these things, right? But from what I can tell, the portable series games, those games are the most content-filled of the franchise, you know? Like, Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate is actually known to be, like, the most content-filled Monster Hunter. Monsters. Just flat out. Yeah. So, like, so if you're itching for that kind of Monster Hunter, it seems to indicate that that's still alive, and that's exciting for those fans, you know?
Yeah. So that's cool. I have 2 pieces of news to wrap up that I will put under the section of I don't buy it. Which is basically us saying, don't buy this news. People are going to sell this to you, don't buy it. Sony's stock spiked this week because some speculation from some analysts at Wedbush Morgan Industries predicted that Sony could be in the high-level talks for buying Take-Two Interactive. You might know these are the people that make NBA 2K, they own Rockstar, they own a whole lot of franchises. For Sony to do this, they would probably have to spend roughly $15 to $20 billion. Sony's market value is $60 billion.
Wait, what? Why would it spend that much money? Holy shit!
Because Take-Two is is a pretty flush company. They're a big deal, and to acquire them, you have to present them enough money to where it would be. Like, it's a whole thing. You basically have to be able to come to investors and say, "Hey, this is worth it."
When you're coming at it with that much money, though, it's more likely even a merger than an
this is the dumbest
acquisition.
Yeah, this is the dumbest.
Yes, don't buy it.
It's worth noting. Like, this is the same analyst company that hires
Michael Pachter. We love that guy.
Pretty sure that Sony already shut down that news.
I'm not sure if they did, because I know Take-Two said we don't comment on rumor and speculation.
Yeah.
But, like, flat out, basically the guy said, because the original way this was quoted as, hey, Sony and Take-Two are in high level.
Yes, they're already there, and they're going to buy it in cash, which is no.
And then later that day, the guy said, I was misquoted. I said this was just purely my speculation.
Yeah,
and it's like,
but
a Sony spokesperson actually said, we do not know where the rumor is coming from. There is no such plan.
But stuff...
Yeah, there we go. Sony shut down.
That stuff did not get headlines is the problem. So we're here to say, don't buy it. Because, man, their spikes... Their stock spiked like 5% when that happened. That rumors can be scary sometimes.
What does
the other
stock
one,
market even mean?
It's just a bunch of people running around with their heads cut off. And then this one, E3 is dead because EA isn't having a press conference this year. I don't buy it.
That's the rumor?
No, it's already confirmed. EA's not having a press conference this year.
Well, no, we already knew that. We talked about it like last week on the podcast.
Yeah.
But there's a rumor that EA...
Well, no, there's just the general conversation of, what's E3 gonna do without EA? We should...
a lot. Who cares? They're not even there technically anyway.
Yes, we should make it... Yeah, that's like what you say. Making it incredibly clear, they're an hour away. They were already having their press conferences before E3 doors opened. They weren't showing their games. There's no company pulling out of E3 that has less effect than EA.
And their conferences, like, let's not forget, their conferences in the last, 5 years have been completely meaningless. You know? We watch those conferences and we get literally nothing out of them for each one of them. You know?
Got unraveled. I mean, that's the only thing I care about.
I mean, and that's the thing, right? Is that, they are still going to stream the weekend before E3, but they're going to do sort of like Treehouse Live, it seems, right? Where they're going to have developers demoing games, talking about the games, which ultimately sounds better.
Yeah,
honestly,
they probably gonna save some money too.
It's a better thing to do. Like, it's just like it's smart for a few reasons, because one, they're doing it the weekend before E3, which means kind of all eyes are on them.
Yes.
You know, I mean, what else is going on?
Press can actually attend.
You know, the press can actually attend. And so I didn't realize. So this year EA Play is just completely from Friday to Sunday.
Yes, it's the full weekend.
they're not gonna run through E3 like they usually do.
Yeah.
Which I imagine for the press, that's like
great news. But also, like, you know, there is fans out there of FIFA and of Madden and of these yearly games that we look at and say, I don't care, get out of my face, right? But if they have a schedule where they say, hey, from 5 to 6, this is where you can see FIFA, and I know, okay, I can skip that hour, and all the FIFA fans say, I can show up for that hour, everybody's happy. It's fine.
And it's like because I'll show up for the gameplay demo of Star Wars
Respawn game,
the Fallen Jedi Order, Respawn Star Wars game. You know, I'll show up for the Titanfall game that they teased coming. You know, but otherwise, like, this works better for me because I will know in advance. Hey, this is when I should show up. This is when I should not give a shit. Yeah, you know, it's perfect. It fits EA's lineup much better. This format.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's still happening like around E3 is clearly still pulling off the like popularity of it. It's yeah. So that's I wanted to take a moment to push back against what the people have been saying online because they're too reactionary. But that is the news for this week. Thank you boys for joining me on this adventure. But now it's time. Saf's dead, and in memory of him, we will put a game on the list.
The list.
Brandon. You are adding this week on the list.
What's up? How's it going?
Oh, by the way, you can follow the list
in the below
in the basement.
Yes, thank you. And last week you added Golden Sun Mill. We've got all that out of the way. Brandon, have at it.
Wow. Way to get it all out of the way. Good job. We remembered. I'm happy for that. We remembered to talk about the pace band.
Thank you, Movie.
It's super important to follow along.
You know, real quick, we should put like a description in the pastebin, like at the top, like this is what the list is, you know, so we never have to explain it again, you know.
All right.
Frick!
Yeah, asking a lot of Adam.
So yeah, just look at the pastebin and you'll know everything about what's about to happen.
That's actually a good idea.
Yeah.
Pretty decent idea. Okay.
Once
so
again,
my turn.
pretty good.
Okay. So I was looking at the list and I was noticing we're lacking a little bit of something on here on the list.
Oh.
That's TurboGrafx 16. No, I'm just.
I was like,
who the fuck played a TurboGrafx 16?
I mean, there's one good game on there.
Yeah, well, bonk, but fuck it. We're not doing that. But you know, there's not a lot of licensed games on here. We got a few, right?
Sure.
We got The Simpsons. You know, arcade.
Star Wars.
We got the Walking Dead. We got the Star Wars. You know, we got Dragon Ball Fighters and Legacy Goku.
We have
Half the list is actually licensed games.
Scott Pilgrim.
Yes, I don't know if I agree with them. There's not many.
the more we go, Brandon is fine.
There's not a lot of licensed games on there, right?
Yeah.
Especially near the top of the list.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh no.
Oh well.
So, you know, I think what's the highest one? The Walking Dead, right?
Yeah.
Number 30.
Great.
That's the highest licensed game. But maybe I found one that might be higher. Who knows? But that game is none other than the super famous, well-known GoldenEye 007.
I knew it, and I'm mad.
Nintendo 64.
Oh hey.
All right.
It's a good game, man. It's a classic. Everybody knows about GoldenEye. You ask anybody that's like in their at least in their 20s, right? Mid 20s or older about GoldenEye.
Yeah.
They have fond memories of this.
Or is a hipster?
Right? you ask, you know, any older game. We're getting old now, goddamn. But you ask, you know, older gamers, and everybody's got like, oh, they were playing GoldenEye in college, or playing GoldenEye in high school, or as kids, and everybody was playing it back in the day because it was the big, like, it's one of the things, like it revolutionized four-player, split screen, you know, shooters, right?
Sure.
I mean, it only I feel like it revolutionized home console shooters, really.
Yeah, it definitely did.
And then, you know, adding the 4-player split screen multiplayer. That's huge. You know, when people think of an N64 and playing four-player split screen, it's like Mario Kart and GoldenEye, right? Those are like the two things that come to your mind.
Absolutely.
So this game was huge.
Big deal, yeah.
Yeah, and it is a big deal because, you know, it's made by Rare. They're huge. You know, one of the best developers of the time. Everybody knows how Rare and N64 were just like two peas in a pod, right? They couldn't do any wrong, man.
Yeah. I mean, I agree.
Very true.
Moosey's an idiot and is mad right
Yeah,
now.
well, but everybody else in the world agrees that Rare in the Nintendo 64, it was just a thing of beauty. Everything they were doing,
Poetry in motion.
and it's crazy to see Rare take on a big license thing. James Bond.
Yeah.
James Bond at the time hadn't really taken off in video games.
No.
There had been James Bond video games prior, not very many, and none of them were good.
Yeah.
This was the moment. This was
it.
Yeah.
This was a really big ushering into, hey, we can take a licensed game, and they had a bad rap too at the time. There was a few shining examples like some of the Disney games you had, some of the Mickey Mouse and Aladdin and stuff, Virgin Interactive, they were doing good, but most of the time, LJN shit all over licensed games. You see that, licensed games had a bad rep, and I think this was huge. As a movie, I think this game though came out long after GoldenEye had already.
Yeah, that was part of it. It was like removed from the movie, actually, in a weird way.
Which is very interesting, right? Because GoldenEye, it was at least I don't know if it was a year, but it was very removed from the movie because it wasn't rushed.
No,
it wasn't. You got to meet the time. You got to have it at the same time as the movie, so people will buy the game after they see the movie, and then you get the shitty games.
Yeah,
but that was not the case. And this game was fucking good, and it showed, and it has a long-lasting impression on video games because just of how much effort was put into this.
Okay.
So it hasn't aged amazing. You go back and play,
yes,
right?
It really
has not aged incredible.
No,
I will say that. It's got N64 controller is not the best controller of all time.
Yeah,
that's for sure. And the aiming uses a little work, but it also has I don't know. I think on the harder difficulty it turns off, but it's got aiming assist.
Yeah.
That helps you out,
which is necessary for a lot of them.
It's necessary, for real in this game. But it's also interesting to note too that just the varying difficulties was a really cool thing at the time, where the harder you play, the more objectives you have. It's not just the enemies are better accuracy and they are harder to kill. No, you had to do extra stuff in the missions.
There are parts of the level you won't see unless you're on a higher difficulty, which is cool.
Yeah, there's rooms and doors and stuff you don't get to go in unless you're playing at a hard difficulty, which is super fucking cool. It was almost like when you're playing through it again at a harder difficulty, you're like, wow, this is interesting. I didn't have to do all this extra stuff the first time I played. I loved that.
Sure.
That was cool. And that, and then the multiplayer is a whole nother thing with just how much fun it is to play. You could lose hours and hours. It has plenty of game modes, decent amount of maps for the time.
Slappers.
Yeah, slappers only. You got the different weapon set. Man, it's fun. It's just pure fucking fun. And then the cheats. The cheats were fun. You can mess with those in single player, multiplayer, and that everybody loves it.
Yeah.
Everybody loves.
I think we know the ultimate cheat is looking at your friend's screen.
Yes, or picking odd jobs. The two big cheeses.
And they even made a game eventually called what the hell is that game called?
Screen Look. I think it's just called Screen Look, or is it Screen Cheat?
That was called Screen Cheat.
Yeah. Where you can't
just based on that.
You can only know where the other person is by looking at their screen because they're invisible otherwise. It'll mess with your brain.
But all that being said, man.
All right.
It's tough to place it on this list because, like I said, it hasn't aged amazingly, but it's still
important.
One hell of a game.
And the control scheme is definitely of its time. As soon as Halo came out, that control scheme was
it's a single analog stick. You use the C buttons to strafe, and
The control scheme is definitely the thing that holds it most back, but otherwise, I think it surprisingly holds up better than you would think. I think, and obviously the graphics is the other thing, right? But
the graphics.
That's every game at that time. This one.
I think that the first level in particular of GoldenEye is a very that's a great set piece.
It's an iconic video game environment. I think that if you show a screenshot of it, people know what it is.
And I think it's worth noting the level design in that game is actually super strong too. Yeah, Golden. It's really just I think the controls and obviously it just in general feeling dated, but overall I think the whole package just holds up far better than people actually give it credit for.
True.
Sure.
And
Which I
also,
think is-
shout out to the music, which
Yeah.
is Noah's going to be like, "What the fuck are you going to mention this?" Noah was pissed, by the way, last week that we didn't
Yeah.
mention
Golden
the
Sun
Golden Sun
music.
music.
Yeah.
But the music in GoldenEye, though, holy shit, it's fucking awesome.
Got some bangers.
A lot of gold.
A lot of gold. So Brandon, where do you want to put it on the list?
That's fucking crazy. It's crazy trying
Oh,
to place
boy.
GoldenEye on this.
Here we go.
On this fucking list, dude. This game means a lot to me.
Sure.
But to try to like take out,
The personal feelings can be difficult.
feelings about this game
Yeah.
and try to place on the list. It's even then it's still difficult for me. I'm thinking it's somewhere in the 20s.
Okay. Can I tell you the game, that I think it has the most comparison to, and I think whether or not I put it above or below it is where my sort of brain is at?
Sure.
It's Super Mario Brothers, right? Like, they're both big.
It's an iconic
Yeah,
game.
big, landmark, got some problems, doesn't always play the best in comparison to the current, iterations of both of the series and the genre that it helped break the way through, but it's still wildly important, right? And ultimately, Mario Bros, I was, in the original argument, was not, for it going higher, but it still controls. It still is a fun game to play. You played it a week ago, and I think the GoldenEye ultimately can still be a fun game to play even now. So I sort of look at it in that context of
Well,
Yeah, Super Mario Brothers is where my eyes are landing. I'm feeling below personally.
yeah, I'm feeling below. I'm feeling
Yeah.
like right above Kid Icarus, maybe, is where.
Oh, so now at 33.
Yeah, that's the game that really, I think, has a better comparison for me. It's just
Okay.
like the control scheme that's holding it back.
Sure. Brandon?
I don't know if I'd put it that low. For me, I personally definitely would put it above Danganronpa.
I wouldn't put it above The Walking Dead, which is what you opened the segment with.
True. I think I would put it above The Walking Dead.
Yeah, I'm feeling like it should be above The Walking Dead, honestly. I think
Yeah.
that.
Yikes.
Yeah.
I don't know how much higher. So definitely my limit is Super Mario Brothers. I don't want it going higher than Super Mario Brothers.
You don't think it's better than Donkey Kong?
No.
I don't think. No. I don't even want it above Super Mario Brothers.
He wants it below Super Mario Brothers. So 27
below
would be the
Super Mario
ceiling
Brothers.
in Moose's mind.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Because Shovel Knight, Punch Out,
Okay.
Valkyrie Chronicles. These are all games that are incredible, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, they're all really good, yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's fair to say, gameplay wise, right? They probably hold up a lot better than, you know.
Yeah.
GoldenEye.
Well,
I do think GoldenEye holds up extremely well.
Yeah.
Surprisingly
it does,
so.
yeah.
And I'm willing to give, the legacy argument is an eternal one and how much you're willing to give. And, I don't think it's, we're clearly not going to put any of these games on the top of the list because of legacy. But, I think that I would be willing to give it a little bit of credit for that.
Just a slight
Yeah.
edge. Yeah, I don't know. I'm feeling right. Right below Super Mario, this feels right to me.
I feel okay with that,
Yeah,
too.
I think I agree.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't matter what I think.
Sorry.
Well, at this point,
Or
If only Saf were
whatever.
here, he would be spiteful against the legacy argument and want to put it at number 40, but he's not here, and so it comes in at number 27 on the list. GoldenEye 007, surrounding it 25 Okami 26, Super Mario Brothers 27. As I said, GoldenEye 007, 28 Shovel Knight Treasure Trove, 29 Punch Out for the Nintendo Wii.
ding, ding, ding.
Ding, ding, ding. Moose, why don't you get the final phrase? And I just randomly decided. There's no reasoning, but I feel like it's been a minute. So while you think on that, let's do some quick plugs. If you made it this far into the podcast, then I figure you must have enjoyed it. So why not rate us 5 stars on your podcast application of choice? Helps discoverability. Also giving us a follow and a like on SoundCloud helps with that as well. This is the show that we do every Monday, but it's not the only show that we do. We also do the Jump Up Supercast Game Club every 2 weeks. Just released Psychonauts, a game that we had a lot to say positively about. Came out last Thursday, so check that out if you've missed it. We have the twitter.com/jumpupsupercast where you will get notifications whenever episodes go live or when we go live on twitch.tv/jumpupsupercast, where Brandon will one day make it past Scour Plains, and one day I may finally get my capture card working again to stream. But until then, go check out Brandon's Mario Day stream. For March 10th, he played through some various Mario games on his Nintendo Switch, and a lot of us were in call for it, so it's a treat.
True.
Outside of that, do we have any, Brandon, are you willing to drop the link again for your little fundraiser? Because
Oh yeah, most definitely. Yeah, I'll drop it in the description below. If you didn't hear the last week's episode, I'm doing a little fundraiser for to help out animals, which everybody loves animals, and if you don't, I don't know what's wrong with you. But I'm doing an indoor triathlon at the biggest arcade in the world. It's called Fun Spot, and we're competing in a bunch of different things. Golf, mini golf, bowling, darts, skee ball, pinball. It's gonna be a fun time. But my team, Team Puma Pants, if you are interested in donating to a good cause and helping my team, because the more money we get to donate, the more extra points we get at the end of the thing. So I'll drop the link below if you're interested. Any amount, even there's no amount too small. So think about the animals. Think about Babe. Think about Balto. Think about all the
Charlotte's
cool
Web.
And, yeah.
Free Willy.
That's it. So that is the podcast for this week. We want to thank you all for listening. And now, Muzamil, your final phrase.
I was when this recording goes up, the Google console or Google whatever will be revealed tomorrow, and I hope that people come at it openly. I get it. Maybe you don't like Google. Maybe you have reason to distrust Google, but it's an exciting time for the industry. A new major player in the game, a whole new. Streaming is going to change the game in of itself, And if they're funding some exclusives, just step back and realize, hey, Outrun's probably not getting made without Google. It wasn't going to happen. So, take those games that get announced tomorrow and be happy about it.